And you're like, well, how are religions based in fear? Let me explain. Actually, let me explain how religion came about, for those of you who are ignorant of its roots. Religion came about when mankind first became consciously aware of itself. When our great ancestors, however long ago that the human race noticeably began, and people started forming together, maybe not into towns and civilizations, but in groups, in maybe 5-10 people in a group, and they would notice that the sun would come up every day and that the sun would set every day, and they thought that if they didn't do something, the sun wasn't going to rise the next day, and if the sun wasn't going to rise, things were going to grow and they were going to die. So they were afraid that the sun would not rise, and in some way or another they gave a sacrifice to it, or they did something that they thought made the sun rise. If it was the Aztecs who did the human sacrifices, or early humans who did animal sacrifices, or whatever, they thought that there was a god for the sun. And we as modern humans, I wouldn't say that we're more intelligent, but we have more knowledge. We know more about our surroundings than our ancestors did, not because that they were stupid, they were ignorant. Ignorant meaning that you don't know something, not that you have an inability to learn, you just don't know. And we now know that it is absurd to think that there is a God that controls the way the sun rises and sets. The sun doesn't move at all. The sun is stationary and we are revolving around it, as has been stated by numerous scientists. All the calculations have been done and everything. So we now know that there is not a God for the sun, there's not a God for the moon, there's not a God for the harvest. There, as far as I'm concerned, isn't a God for anything. And people are going to say now, well, if you don't believe there's a God, how do things exist? You want to know the answer? I don't know. I don't know how things exist and how they work. Other than what's put in front of me that is irrefutable evidence, I don't know. And you know what? That's the biggest difference between myself and a religious individual. They are afraid to say to themselves or to other people and actually mean it. I don't know how the universe works. I don't know how it was created. If it was created, maybe the universe has always existed, which is an abstract concept because we as humans, everything in our life has a beginning and has an end. But just because that applies to Earth doesn't mean that applies to everything. Earth is a very minute portion of the entire universe as we are aware of. Maybe the universe is bigger than we know it. Maybe there are multiple universes. Who knows? There's too many unknowns to say that we know enough. We will never know enough until we know it all, but we won't know that we know it all. And that's a very difficult concept to wrap your mind around. So, what I'm trying to say is, I can't really prove that there is a God, isn't a God, sorry, and you can't really prove that there is a God. So why do we argue about it? Why do we argue that my view of how things were created and why things work is better than your view? Why do we argue about this instead of, as a collaborative effort, try to figure out how it really does work? Instead of being lazy and saying, oh, the end times are here, when people have been saying that since forever. It's been going on for the longest time. Everybody said that the end times are here, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Personally, I highly doubt it. Everyone's always been trying to predict the end of the world as we know it. Whether they're religious or not, they just want to, be right, that the world's gonna end. And who knows? Maybe the world will never end. Maybe the world is in an infinite loop. But we don't have enough information human civilization and sentient humans have only been around for, I'm probably going to get this estimate wrong, but maybe 10,000-15,000 years. I'm not really sure, but someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But that's not that long. For one single person, 10,000-15,000 years is a long time, but in a wide scope of things, from what we know about the universe and how old it is, that is a fraction. That is a very small fraction of the time that the whole universe as we know it has existed. And we just don't have enough information to unanimously conclude that there is or isn't a God, that things did or didn't have a start, and that things will or will not have an end. And I have digressed severely from this topic. We've gone from burning the Quran to how the universe started. This is how my mind works. I go from linking thoughts, and it just progresses on, and I learn a lot from talking to myself. I do it quite a bit, whether it be out loud or in my head. Right now I'm talking to myself. I will be talking at you in whenever this video is up and you're watching it, but at this point in time I'm talking to myself. So what I'm saying is that you can't say that you're right because you don't know. And you may want to say that, yes, I know I'm right. I know 100% that I'm right. You know deep down in your heart that you are not 100% right. You are not even close to 100% right. Or maybe you are. But none of us know for sure. The only people that know are those that are dead. And maybe if you still have some kind of conscience after you're dead, maybe you don't even know anything then. There's just too many unknowns in our world to be fighting about such trivial things. And if there is a God, if there is a God, Allah, or the Christian God, or the Jewish God, or whatever religion, or the Hindu gods, if the gods are so loving and so compassionate, they wouldn't care whether or not we believed their stories. I have a healthy doubt. I doubt it because I don't have the evidence. I don't have sufficient evidence to prove that it is true. If there were more evidence to prove that it was true than there was evidence to prove that it isn't true, I'm not going to get into the evidence right now because that's a completely different discussion. But there just isn't enough evidence to safely conclude that there is or isn't. But there's more to conclude that there isn't a God to me than there is a God. Now, I don't think I've confused myself at all during this, but I may have confused you. And if you have any questions or something that I didn't cover, leave a comment. I will try to reply to it as best as I can, and only if it's a logical question, written in a legible manner, not, typed out in your fucking leet speak and someone's gonna do it just to be cute and adorable and whatever else. But if you pose a logical question and you're not trying to troll me or whatever else, I will answer it as truthfully as I can and to the best of my knowledge. But beyond that, no promises. So that's my rant. I say do burn the Quran, also burn the Bible, the Torah. What else do we have? There's so many religious texts, I don't even care to know them all. But I say burn every single one of them and get rid of religion because it's nothing but a fear. It's nothing but a fear-monger, and that's how all religion works. It's to feed off people's fear because fear is the best way to control. So I'm going to stop on that note before I keep going, and I will talk to you guys later.